running back. Look
Yeah,
at that.
That's right. That's
Trey
right. We're all
Look
in
at
spring
that.
football shape here. I did that out of my
Best shape of
co-host
his
request.
life.
Just like this YouTube channel's in the best shape of its life. Is the Florida State football program in the best shape of its life? Probably not. But what shape is it in? We're not 100% sure. We will find out because we are back with video number 2 of the spring football position preview / question storylines to watch. The last time you guys saw us, we were talking about the quarterbacks and Thomas Castellanos. But today, we're going to be talking about a position group that needs to be effective for Florida State's offense to have any semblance of a prayer of effectiveness in 2025. And that is the running back position. Guys, this is a position that has been devalued in the NFL for a long time, starting to get some more value. And it's one that we as consumers of Mike Norvell football kind of just took for granted that would always be good based on his reputation at Memphis, based on what he's done with guys like Trey Benson, just Jayshon Corbin, things like that. But last year, what an absolute disappointment. Obviously, the offensive line teaser, we'll talk about them a little bit later in another video. But the running backs did themselves no favors. The guys that they brought in from other schools, talented freshmen, dudes that have been in the program, nobody could seem to get it going in 2024. Guys, what's to make about sneakily one of the most uncertain position groups on the entire team? Adam, what do you make of the running back position for Florida State in 2025?
I'm desperately trying to find that dude. I'm wondering if he'll be here.
We all?
Yeah, I'm wondering if he's just going to show up in the summertime or in Usman Chroma, or if they've got a guy in the room right now that they feel like they can lean on. I think, we should probably start with who's in the room. So, you've got Cam Davis, Roydell Williams, Jaylin Lucas, Sam Singleton, Usman Chroma coming in the summertime, but this is spring, so we can't really talk about him, but he's all I want to talk about. And Keziah Holmes.
Distinguished veteran and Brevard County resident, Keziah Holmes.
But they all look the same. Like, aren't they? They're all like 6 foot, 6'1", 215 to 225, like somewhere in that ballpark.
Kind of bruisers.
Minus Jaylin Lucas, who's over there in his own world. But he's such an outlier because he's like 5'7", 150, like not like he's like 5'10", 190 speedster jet kind of guy. Like, I don't know.
So, Adam, I think this leads to we prepped a little bit for this, like we do as the professionals that we are. Yeah. Don't let the intro fool you. We're not that much of a bunch of drooling idiots. We prepare, yeah. What this leads to your question, Adam? Like, can this room do enough different stuff? Can they throw enough different looks at you? That's kind of what you were wondering, right?
Yeah. Is there any diversity in this room? That's just kind of alluding at that. Like, is this just a one-trick pony? Guys that can kind of get downhill behind their shoulder pads, and do they have a guy that can make a jump cut in the hole? Do they have a guy that can make a guy miss the second level? We've seen Keziah Holmes do that a little bit throughout his career, but they just never want to give him opportunities for some reason. I don't know why. I couldn't sit here and begin to tell you why he doesn't get more opportunities. We don't know. I don't know. I have no clue why he doesn't get more opportunities. He's the one guy that's shown a little bit of juice, aside from Jaylin Lucas. Look, we know what Jaylin Lucas is. He is a spark plug. He was my number 10 on the most important position list last year. Trey mocked me openly. He yelled at me. He berated me. He screamed at me. All the things, all the adjectives that I could throw about what Trey did towards me.
Yeah, was he the 10th most important player on the team last year still?
I mean, they gave him like 2 touches, and then he got hurt.
Okay. My argument stands, but yes, he's got potential to be number 10 this year.
He's proven to be very dynamic.
Was anybody the number 10th most important person?
Was there number 1?
There's 11 guys on each side of the ball. I don't know how many were good.
He's proven to be a dynamic player with the ball in his hands, but he's not a guy that you can give it to He's not a guy you're going to put in the backfield and say, "Hey, go run stretch or go run outside zone,
Right.
or even run inside zone." And we know that inside zone is going to be the feature play for this offense. Herb Hand has said throughout multiple clinics that that's what he believes, and that's what he wants to be as an offensive line coach. Gus Malzahn has, and all the data supports that that's what he wants to feature as a run game, which is a shift from Mike Norvell, who was a counter with some outside zone, some inside zone mixed in there. So, yeah, I mean, I've got legitimate questions. Are these guys that can run a track, make a
vision, dude? Can you
one,
see the hole? All right.
make a one tech miss at the first level if they have to, or set up, or the two guys at the first level are blocked, they can set up that second level defender and make him miss in the hole. Or these guys that are just they're gonna stick their nose in the hole and they're just gonna fall down like they did last year.
Right into the back of their offensive lineman.
There was a lot of get into the hole at 2 yards and fall down and not do anything after it. And that's not going to be successful for you.
So you don't, on this episode, you don't get to pose a question and not answer it yourself.
No, I don't
as
think
of
that
right
they do.
now. So
I don't
the
think
answer
that
is
they
no.
do. No, I don't think that they've got enough diversity in this room.
I agree with you, to be honest. With the guys that they're in the room for spring.
I think they've got some good one-cut guys, but I don't know how great I love a one-cut guy in an inside zone offense. In my opinion.
It's such a departure from like Trey Benson, who was like the king of like forced missed tackles. They were not. I'd love to see the team's forced missed tackle stat last year. I bet it was like it had to be like bottom quintile in the entire country. Kev, what do you think? To Adam's question posed to you, in diversity of skill set, is there a guy, like, is there an elusive back in this room and we just haven't had the chance to see him yet?
Yeah, I mean, if on the surface, to me, it sounds a little odd, right? Like, because Sam Singleton is not like Cam Davis, right?
Mm-hmm.
One is a speedster and one is,
a bruiser,
right? In theory, I saw one carry guys for 10 yards at one point last year, and I saw the other make a cut and get an explosive play. But I think the heart of what Coach AB is saying is something I agree with. These guys are not, they're one cut guys. At least they were last year. They were guys that, whether it's counter or outside zone, you run a track, then you hit a hole. And that's not how you work inside zone. Inside zone is a patience game. Inside zone is a reading game. Inside zone requires vision and anticipation and things that this running back room didn't excel in last year. I like what AB was saying, because Holmes was the only one that showed any semblance of vision, but he might be the physically least gifted of all of the guys in the room in terms of top end speed. And he has some strength to his running game. He's a bruiser himself, but one-on-one, Cam Davis is more likely to break a tackle. But like Cam Davis, Roydell Williams, these are guys that have physical talent that could be great running backs just based off their raw numbers, but their problems was their vision. They were unable to see the holes. It was a huge contributor to the failing running game last year. Was something I don't think enough people talked about, was just missed holes, just a lack of vision. And that's not going to get better with inside zone running game that is harder to read, right? If you go to high schools around the country, even though counter requires pulling linemen and all of this stuff, you'll see more often than not they're running gap schemes and not zone schemes, because zone schemes are harder. Zone schemes require more from the running backs to be able to read a defense. And there's a big question for me of whether or not any of these guys will step up and be able to take the mantle and be able to be, the UCF had a guy named RJ Harvey last year, and he was their guy, right? They invested in RJ Harvey. He was he found explosive plays when they needed it. I mean, their offense was okay last year. Their team as a whole wasn't great, but RJ Harvey was a special player, and you kind of need that if you want to be a good running team. Is that there is this in the roster somewhere? Maybe there's some unlocking once you change the dynamics of the offense. Once you run the same inside zone over and over, and you're not trying to run every running play under the sun. Maybe it simplifies it for some of these guys. But as of now, I have no clue who it's going to be because it's even playing field from here. I haven't seen enough from any of them.
I think the conversation is going to start with Roydell Williams because he's a guy that's shown
banged up last year. Banged up last year.
Yep. Look, he just didn't look comfortable at all last year. And look, I know I mentioned it in the quarterback preview, and I think you both did as well. Like, it's impossible to look at last year's team or people that played for last year's team and say, well, we know what they can be because of last year. I just don't think you can. And I do think we were excited about Roydell coming from Alabama. Alabama ran more inside zone than what Florida State has run traditionally. Now with Gus Malzahn, knowing that they want to be more of an inside zone team, like I think the conversation starts there with him of the guy most likely to be able to get back into that and be successful with it. But he's got to go show it. I mean, he's got to go back in there and prove it. He's got to prove that he can be healthy. I don't think it's fair to say like, well, he's going to go get 20 carries a game. Like, I just don't think that that's in the cards for, and like, I think that's what Gus wants. Like, I think Gus wants a guy that he can just give the ball to throughout the course of the game and be his feature.
Which is different than how Mike's done it at FSU.
It is. I mean, maybe Kev can find that because I could be wrong. Maybe Gus likes to rotate guys, but I thought Gus liked to lean on one back a little bit more.
Yeah, he's a one back guy.
Well, I think the conversation starts with Roydell, then I think it goes to Cam Davis. And look, Cam's got it. He's a guy that
transitioning still newer to running back, which I think has been mentioned some by us at least at Knowles247.com. He's a quarterback in high school, right, guy?
Yep. He's a guy that more than anybody last year was hurt by what was happening in front of him. Like that, he's a young man who needs to be able to build up momentum to be successful as a runner. So I'm hoping Herpan is also a guy who wants to secure the front line with double teams and make sure that you're not getting penetrators from the defensive line into the backfield.
That's true. And he's, I think he pointed it out himself on Twitter. UCF had one of the highest yards before contact, maybe of anybody in the country last year.
Yeah, they were up there. So that bodes well for what you envision Cam Davis being, an inside zone runner who is able to build up behind his pads and that power and be a people mover, a pile mover, a guy that runs through arm tackles. So there's reasons for hope. Like there's reasons for optimism there. These guys gotta work the craft. They gotta get the vision down. They gotta get their reads down, their tracks down. And if they can, there's success there for them. I would love a guy like an RJ Harvey who, you get a guy in there that can make a jump cut, a guy that can get in and out of holes against second level defenders, first level defenders, and have that explosiveness after it to hit that home run shot. They just don't have that.
Kev, now to you, because Adam's point, his question is about diversity. Yours was, do they have an inside zone guy in this roster? Adam kind of went through the names, and his main candidate right now would be Roydell Williams. Do you agree with that? Who's your guy in the spring who could maybe be a bigger weapon in an inside zone scheme than we think, right? Than what we've seen so far.
Yeah. So to kind of elaborate. To elaborate on that point is they're going to be an RPO team. How do RPO teams work? Well, they leverage a guy that has both run fit and pass responsibility. If that guy takes his pass responsibility, that means he's not there to fill a hole, right? That means the running back in question has to be able to, in a pinch, get the ball understand who the guy is that's not filling that hole and find the space that he vacated, right? You've got to do that in a half a second to take advantage of the hesitation that guy had before he came to fill his run gap.
Correct.
That's not an easy task, and that requires what AB was saying is those jump cuts, right? Like I've got to be able to take my inside zone track and hit a B gap or a C gap or an A gap in a second, because I've got to beat the guy that we just read to the hole based off his half second of hesitation, right? That's very important. How quickly can you redirect and hit that gap and go upfield? So that's not one cut. It's not like a slasher, like a Sam Singleton who takes one step and heads up field, which I think is a valuable tool, especially in outside zone run game. But with the inside zone, yeah, you often need to relocate, especially if they're holding those double teams. It almost turns into a duo look where now, it could be the A gap or the left side B gap or the right side B gap, but you've got to get into one of those holes right now. And I do think Roydell Williams is the best candidate to kind of fit that gap. Keziah Holmes is slightly behind him in terms of physical ability to do that. And maybe there's something in Sam Singleton that we haven't gotten to see, but he's got the speed to do it. He's the fastest guy in this room. And so I would say Roydell's the one who's most likely to do it tomorrow. I think proficiently. I think if you can unlock that part of Sam Singleton's game, he could be someone that could punish teams because he's quick enough to get to that gap right now. But we haven't seen that jump cutting in his game, at least at the college level. So right now I'm with him. I haven't seen it, but this offense is going to look a little bit different than last year's, and maybe that's a good thing. But there is a concern that this room was recruited to run counter. How does that work?
Well, and that kind of leads to my question. A lot of question marks surrounding running backs, which once again is abnormal for a Mike Norvell head coach football team. But my question is this all just a formality? Or are we just waiting for Usman Chroma to get here? And if so, is that a lot of pressure that you're putting on? A lot of people think running backs, especially ones that highly recruited, one that you plucked from Georgia, that the Georgia Bulldogs really wanted. Is that an unfair amount of pressure? A lot of people think running backs are just plug and play. We saw last year with another highly recruited guy, Cam Davis, not as highly recruited and regarded as Chroma. It didn't work out that way. And oftentimes it doesn't work out that way when you move up a level. But Adam, are we just waiting for Chroma? Or
I'm not even convinced that he's an inside zone runner, if I'm being perfectly honest. He's another guy. He's another guy that it's a kind of a it's not a plotter. That's not fair to call him a plotter because it's not what he is. But he's another guy who's more kind of built for the counter game and running outside zone and working off of that. But all these guys are going to be able to run inside zone, and their success is going to be driven by how successful the guys in front of them are. Just like every great running back in football history.
We're not, it's true. And I don't want to say it is different. It is more difficult than what Florida State used to do. We're not asking them to split an atom. It is still you're still a running back in college football.
Right.
These kids are smart enough and talented enough to figure it out.
Oh, for sure.
Is it their ideal skill set? No. But
because the point of it, when the play breaks down in front of them, when a linebacker shoots a gap, can they get out of that gap where it was red and get into a different gap where it's been opened up? And we just haven't seen that ability from the guys that are here right now. And I don't know if that's Usman Chroma's strength either, but his strength might just be running your ass over and having great contact balance,
which is cool. Which is objectively really cool.
very same with Cam Davis. And Sam Singleton's strength might just be he outruns it. So there's a lot of give and take here with these conversations. We haven't seen these guys be asked to do this, so it's tough to say for sure whether they can or they can't. And I'm excited to find out. But as far as are we just wait? I don't know. Look, Chroma's going to be a guy. He's going to be a guy for you. He's going to be a guy for you this year. I think there's more in Roydell Williams than what we got to see last year. I was excited about him coming over from Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's a future. I don't think he's a feature back. Like I thought his role at Alabama was great. He's a split share kind of guy. But I think right now he's the guy most suited and best suited to run your inside zone run game. So I think that he's 1A, and then, Chroma gets here in the spring or in the summertime. He's going to be a 1B type guy. And then you're just trying to figure out, can Cam Davis take that next step to really be in there? And can you unlock that Sam Singleton speed and get him comfortable in this new style of run game? And then Jalen Lucas is going to be run all over the place.
He'll be involved. He'll be involved.
He's going to run all over the place in motion, because that's what Gus does. He runs a shitload of jet motion, and expect to see it.
To add to this conversation, I mean, they have run some inside zone. So I've got some very, very small sample size.
Okay.
We're talking 7 rushes from Roydell Williams on inside zone plays
at Florida State?
FSU for 24 yards. So, 3.5 yards.
It's not bad.
Yeah. Cam Davis, 18 inside zones for 3.5 yards per carry. Sam Singleton, 9 carries for 6 yards per rush. So
there you go. Okay.
Yeah, maybe he's the guy, because I homed 3, but we're talking about
maybe we should have ran it more last year, because 3.5 per rush is way better than what they got on anything else.
That is it actually does look a lot better than their counter game, and I think we pointed that out, that there were some huge flaws in how they were blocking counter. But yeah, based off these tiny sample sizes, you'll take 3.5 yards per carry, which is basically what all these guys are averaging.
That's a great point. Once again, there was so much that was happening in front of them. There were so many plays where any run game was dead on arrival based on what the offensive line was doing, based on how the defense was playing you, the number of guys in the box, how aggressively they were flying in with safety help and corner help. With a more competent offensive line, which, spoiler alert, we're going to get to that video. We're all predicting better offensive line play. I know, crazy, Nostradamus. But it'll be interesting to see, Kev. It is super duper duper small sample sizes, but way more promising than what they did any years before. I don't know, dude. It's just a lot of question marks, guys. And I know that you can tell that from the tone and tenor of the conversation, because there's just a lot of legitimate question marks on this team. This isn't a position group where there's a ton of new faces, all over the rest of the offense and the entire team in general. But this is a lot of guys that but you've never seen them do it before. And they're going to have to do it. Florida State will 100% need an effective running game to do anything in 2025, or I don't want to think about going through something similar again to what we went through last year. You guys deserve better. You deserve the best. And that's why you're listening to us. That's why you're definitely subscribed to Knowles247.com. That's why you're subscribed to this YouTube channel, the Knowles247.com YouTube channel. You are the best. So you put those notifications on. I know you did. Don't prove me wrong. Stay tuned for more videos, more content. Spring football's here. You guys made it. You guys made it through the winter doldrums. The beautiful spring daisies are pushing through. Football, smell the football in the air. It's time. It's time. It's football time. We love you. Thanks for sticking with us. We're gonna have more down the road, some more videos, more position previews. But in the meantime, keep chopping.